Good morning to all of you here in the sanctuary of the First Unitarian Church of Alton. And greetings to all of you watching the service remotely. We are glad you are here. I'm very glad you all are here. We welcome each and every one of you into this home of comfort, spirit, justice, and hope. I'm Mary Johnson, and I'm the worship leader this morning. And I'll be sharing a sermon with you written by the Reverend Erica Barron, a Unitarian Universalist congregational consultant for the New England region of the UUA. And prior to her current position, she served as a parish minister in New York and Vermont, and is a graduate of Andover Theological School. Unfortunately, there will be no RE or childcare this morning. Well, there sort of is childcare this morning. Jerry has volunteered to work in the nursery. But we will have a fun video for the children, for the story of all ages, and quiet activities for the kids during the service. We begin our service with a prelude by our accompanist, Joy Heft. Thank you, Joy. An important ritual in the Unitarian Universalist faith is the lighting of our chalice. The flaming chalice has been part of the Unitarian tradition since the 1940s, and the ritual is practiced in most of the approximately 1,000 UU congregations in the United States. Unitarian Universalists have many different interpretations for the meaning of the chalice, including the light of reason, the warmth of community, the flame of hope, the fire of commitment, and is a symbol of religious liberty. And if you're watching elsewhere and have a candle or chalice nearby, I invite you to light it now as I light the chalice here as we join in saying the unison words. We hallow this time together by kindling the lamp of our heritage. And the opening words this morning are by British author Alexander McCall Smith. Gracious acceptance is an art which most never bother to cultivate. We think we have to learn how to give, but we forget about accepting things, which can be much harder than giving. Accepting another person's gift is allowing them to express their feelings for you. Please rise in body and our spirit in our first hymn, Wake Now My Senses. It's number 298 in the gray hymnal. Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the truth. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take and show stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience with justice thy God. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God love embraces the whole human race. Take now my vision, street clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work for a planet, transform my heart care. And now we're going to have a story for all ages. It's a video entitled Thankful, Grateful, Appreciate by Juicebox Jukebox, created by Bradley James Siskimus. Sound. We should have sound. Okay. It is usual in our worship to place each service within the context of the larger principles and sources of our faith. While we are a religion with no requirement or creed of belief, we do have values which we support overall. The thoughts in today's service were drawn from principle number 1, affirming and promoting the worth and dignity of every person, and number 3, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. The reading this morning is from Malidoma Somé, an author and workshop leader who primarily focused his work in the areas of spirituality. He was born in Burkina Faso, West Africa, but spent most of his adult life in the U.S. and Europe. He wrote, "We usually think about giving generously, but we think less often about what it means to receive generously. Since we crave having our gifts seen, acknowledged, and confirmed, it is an act of generosity to each other to receive each other's gifts. Together, we can create communities that notice gifts and celebrate them and give them ways to be experienced. Each week, we take time to recognize the joys, milestones, and concerns of this community. For things in our hearts that we hold in silence, we recognize them by taking a stone or stones from the container at the back or from the container here in the front. Through thought or meditation, we allow the stones to bring us into awareness of those things most important in our life. We then place the stones in the cleansing water of the community. If you have a joy, sorrow, or celebration or struggle you wish to recognize, you're invited to come forward now. Please go down the aisle on my right and come up on the aisle on my left. Please remain seated for our second hymn, Meditation on Breathing. It's 1009 in the teal-colored hymnal, and the words will be projected on the wall. If you're looking at the hymnal, we'll be singing just the melody, and we'll sing the hymn through 3 times. Joy will play it through once. breathe in. Oh, breathe in peace. Oh, breathe in peace. Oh, breathe out love. Oh, breathe in peace. Oh, breathe out love. The sermon this morning was written by the Reverend Erica Barron. She writes, I am a Unitarian Universalist congregational consultant for the New England region. At the region, we believe that the purpose of congregational life at its core is to support everyone in the congregation to find and develop their spiritual leadership while creating communities of love and liberation for all. Our leadership team has identified 5 practices that congregations can do in order to fulfill this purpose. One is centering in gifts. Today, I want to talk about the practice of centering in gifts. Our team's understanding of this practice has been deeply informed by Malidoma Somé, who was an elder of the Dagara people of Burkina Faso in West Africa, and he understood his mission was to bring his people's wisdom into the world. And here's a little bit more from his writing. Whether they are raised in indigenous or modern culture, there are 2 things people crave: the full realization of their innate gifts and to have those gifts approved, acknowledged, and confirmed. There are countless people in the West whose efforts are sadly wasted because they have no means of expressing their unique gifts. In the psyches of such people, there is an inner power and authority that fails to shine because the world around them cannot perceive it. Reverend Barron continues, now when we say gifts, that needs a little explanation. We live in a context that is really focused on productivity and marketable skills. So lots of us have learned all kinds of skills and techniques that we use in our work lives, our congregational lives, our families, everywhere we go. There are lots of very helpful skills and techniques for all kinds of tasks and situations. And having a good number of them available to you can be really helpful. I'm all about developing skills. But gifts are something different. Notice that Malidoma Somé calls them innate gifts. You are born with them. They are part of your nature. You can develop and hone them for sure, but you don't have to learn them at a basic level because they are part of you. I think of gifts as the things that shine out of us, the things we can't not do in a joyful way, like the person whose attention is always drawn to babies and small children, and who interacts with them with such delight and openness that the children always love them back. Or the person who is so in love with earth and soil that their garden is always overflowing. Or the person who can see a jumble of anything, clothes, files, images, ideas, and make of them a beautiful order, and does not find the task onerous, but rather enjoys the challenge and finds deep satisfaction in the completion. Somé goes so far as to call this our unique genius. Did you know that you are a genius? We're not taught to think this way about ourselves in our culture. Genius is something a very few, very smart, very accomplished people have. The rest of us are just ordinary, not spectacular, not special, just ordinary. Even people who were labeled gifted as children can feel the weight of imposter syndrome. I'm not actually special or gifted, and someday they'll notice that I'm just ordinary. But Somé tells us that we all have unique genius. So you are a genius. You just have to find the thing that makes you a genius. How do you know what your gifts are? How do you identify your unique genius? Sometimes we just know, but often we need others to help us discover our gifts. This seems strange, if a gift is something so core to our being that we can't not do it. But that's precisely why it is difficult sometimes to discern our own gifts. Because gifts come so naturally to us, we may think, that can't be a gift. It's no big deal. Anyone could do that. As it turns out, that is often not true. There is likely something that comes easily and naturally to you that others have to struggle to do. Some gifts are big and showy, hard to miss. I think, for example, of people with a gift for performing. That usually becomes obvious at some point. Or the people with a gift for greeting and welcoming others. You've probably met them because they have a gift for meeting you. Other gifts are quieter and subtler. The gift of sitting with someone who is sad or lonely without trying to fix it. The gift of just being there. The gift of creating a physical space that feels calm and beautiful. The gift of asking the key question. The gift of saying that one sentence at the end of an hour-long conversation that sums up the heart of what has been said. These gifts take a little more careful observation to notice. As Maladomi Somé says, one of the things we long for is to have our gifts acknowledged, confirmed, and approved. Part of centering in gifts as a community is to notice each other's gifts and then acknowledge them. To help each other feel deeply and seen as people with something to offer, as people who embody our own unique version of spiritual leadership. Reverend Barron says, in the first few months of my time on the regional staff, I went with my colleague Joe Sullivan to a leadership retreat in one of our congregations. Joe led the board members, committee on ministry members, and the minister in an exercise of noticing each other's gifts. We went around the circle, and for each person, Joe invited others in the room to speak about that person's gifts. And they did. They mentioned things like a sense of humor, the insight to find and ask the key question, a willingness to speak a minority opinion with courage and without bitterness. Each person who spoke about a gift did it with deep appreciation. I could feel the joy and gratitude in the room. When we were done, there was a lightness and closeness in the group that hadn't been there before. This is one way of centering in gifts in a congregation, but it was one exercise and one day of a retreat. She writes, I've done this exercise a bunch of other times since I learned it from Joe, and almost always there is the same joy, excitement, lightness, and closeness. And often this takes far longer than I had planned. I think this is because, as Somé says, this is something we crave, not only to have our own gifts seen and confirmed, but to see and confirm the gifts of others. In fact, I've noticed that people tend to get at least as much joy from telling someone else about their gifts as from having their gifts confirmed. It feels good to appreciate each other in this way. As you use, one of our principles is to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The practice of noticing and naming each other's gifts is one way to practice this principle. This is one way of noticing the full humanity of others and of promoting everyone's ability to claim and live into their worth and dignity. Right now, I invite you to think of someone who has a gift that is important to you. What have you seen someone doing with joy and love? What has someone offered you that has been moving or helpful or supportive or inspiring? Take a moment to say thank you in your heart for this gift. And if you have never told this person the gift you have received from them and what it has meant to you, I invite you to consider doing that. This idea might seem totally awkward. It is strange to me how rarely we tell each other what we appreciate about each other, what we mean to each other. But it is rare, and so it is awkward. It's something that many of us lack practice in. But if you do it anyway, it usually is appreciated. It's usually a way of spreading joy. I invite you to imagine ways this could be a more regular part of your life as a congregation. Maybe you want to try this exercise of naming gifts on a committee you're on, or a small group you belong to. If doing it all at once seems overwhelming, maybe you can take turns lifting up the gifts of one person at each meeting. Maybe those of you who have a gift for taking the conversational lead could make it a point of starting start telling people the gifts you notice them bringing. If you did that enough, maybe it would be less awkward for others to follow. I call this sermon Receiving Generously because we usually think about giving generously. I know that many of you are very generous of your gifts and your skills and your other resources. That is also an important practice. But we think less often about what it means to receive generously. A gift has meaning when it is received and appreciated. That's as true for the gifts of our being as for more concrete gifts. Since we crave having our gifts seen, acknowledged, confirmed, it is an act of generosity to each other to receive each other's gifts. Part of that is noticing each other's gifts and speaking them aloud, as we have been discussing. But there's another layer of practicing centering of gifts in gifts. Somé says that there are countless people in the West whose efforts are sadly wasted because they have no means expressing their unique genius. Some of us are lucky enough to have ways to offer our gifts in other aspects of our lives beyond the congregation, in our families or our jobs or other groups. But some of us don't. Some of us don't have another way to offer our gifts at all. So as a community, part of receiving each other generously means offering each person a way to express their unique gifts. Sometimes this requires creating new avenues to offer gifts in the community that haven't existed. Maybe you want to offer a way for people to request a conversation about their gifts. This might look like a group that would meet to lift up the gifts they see in that person. They would then help that person think about where they are expressing their gifts in the world and where they might do it more. If there are important gifts that have no expression right now, there could be a way to figure out how the congregation can provide a way to express gifts. You are a genius right now. Without having to do anything, you are already carrying gifts for your community and for the world. Turn your attention inside. Can you notice your own gifts? Every person around you in this room is a genius. They are all carrying precious gifts for your community and the world. Can you notice the gifts of another person in the room? If not right now, can you prepare to be on the lookout? Can you make it a practice to seek the gifts in others? You are all geniuses, and together you can create a community that notices gifts and celebrates them and gives them ways to be expressed. I invite you to give it a try. Please rise in body and or spirit to join in singing our last hymn, number 131 in the gray colored hymnal, Love Will Guide Us. The words will be up there, and yes, because Joy has added another verse. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from free to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, inside us, will lead the way on the road from free to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. You are like no other being. What you can give, you can give to the future of your gracious children, to Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us. We'll lead the way on the road from free to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. As we approach the time for our offering, give what you will for the church that has meant so much to you, for the church that has meant so much to those who came before you, and for the church that will mean so much to people you will never know. As Paul passes the offering plate, I make the generous reminder that this community of faith is supported only by your giving. But stewardship is more than just financial donations. It's about donating time and talent to help our church. All are needed for the church to prosper. And you may mail your financial gift to the church or give electronically through Givelify, found on our website. Give what you will, for you are a generous people. Please join with me in our offering prayer. May this offering equip us to inspire love and seek justice. I have a few announcements. Remind you that this coming Tuesday, May 9th at 6 p.m., we will be holding a virtual town hall meeting to review the potential sites that are being considered for the congregation's new home. The Zoom link is listed on page 3 of the church newsletter that was sent out and in the Church This Week flyer that was sent out on Wednesday. Please join the Zoom meeting. I believe they're going to have photographs of the various places that the moving team has visited, and we will get some more information about those sites. Next Sunday will be Flower Communion Sunday, so please bring flowers to share. I brought some iris this morning in anticipation of next week. Congratulations to Jennifer Lewis, who received her master's degree this past week. And as many of you know, if you've read the letters that were sent out to members and friends on Friday, our minister, Krista Taves, has accepted a contract to called ministry from Elliott Chapel in Kirkwood. This will be a full-time position, and we are very happy for her, but saddened that next Sunday, May the 14th, will be her last Sunday in the pulpit here in Alton. However, we will not be without a minister in our new church year, which starts in July. We are glad to announce that we are contracting with the Reverend Dr. Claudia Hall, who has graciously served us for the past several years in various capacities. She will be our minister in the 23-24 church year. So details are still being worked out, as well as plans for Reverend Krista and Reverend Claudia to work together in finding new ways of doing ministry with us. So stay tuned for whatever comes next. Are there any other announcements? I invite you to join me in reciting the following words as I extinguish the chalice. The light of truth and meaning cannot be put out. We are keepers of this flame until we meet again. And the closing words from the Reverend Sarah York. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown. And we end our service with Postlude by Joy Hammond. Thank you, Joy. I think there's coffee out there. I don't know if there's any refreshments, but there's coffee. And I was so glad to